What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today we are going to break down the new defensive line skill stick here in Madden 21 to try to help you guys get more pressure on the quarterback here as you guys are starting up your franchise modes or playing your ultimate team or head-to-head, whatever it might be. We're going to try to get you guys more pressure by breaking down the exact skill moves. That way we can show you guys what you need to do in order to be successful with these skill moves. So let's go ahead and jump into the practice mode here, and I'll begin showing you guys the various different skill moves. There are essentially four main types of skill moves that you guys can perform. There is the speed rush to the outside. There is going to be a bull rush for the larger interior defenders or power rushers. There's going to be the club and swim move, and then there is going to be the rip move. Now there are other moves in addition to that, like the spin move, which I can try and demonstrate here for you guys. And there are some things that affect whether you're able to perform these moves or not. So there's a club move. You can do various different things with how you move the stick whenever you're using a defensive lineman or a person that is rushing the passer. Let's start with the most basic, and that is going to be the power or bull move. So let's say you take a guy like a Cam Hayward and you want to use his power rush. Essentially, all you have to do is flick the right stick down or push the right stick down. A lot of times what I'll do is flick the right stick down multiple times and it'll activate the bull rush move. So what the bull rush move does, as you guys will see with Cam Hayward, a lot of times is it will push the offensive lineman far into the backfield, and you'll see that here with Cam Hayward as he tries to execute the bull rush. He tries to push him forward, and that's essentially what's going to happen. He's going to push him, and if he wins that bull rush, he's going to essentially put that offensive lineman on his back, and he's going to get pressure on the quarterback, or at the very least, he's going to push the offensive lineman further back into the backfield to disrupt the pocket and create pressure, as you guys can see what's going on here. Now, he wasn't super successful with this bull rush, but the first time I ran it a second ago, he was more successful with it, and there is a factor that is playing into why he's less successful with it this time. If we go out to the play, you guys will see that there is a bar underneath of David DeCastro, and what you're seeing is every time I perform a move against David DeCastro here, that bar is going to increase for David DeCastro, and essentially what that bar is, a lot of people have this confused with a stamina bar. What that bar is underneath of David DeCastro is a tolerance bar, and as you perform pass rush moves against a certain offensive lineman with a certain defensive lineman, and there was a very good example of a bull rush move. I'll give you guys a replay of that. As you perform your moves against an offensive lineman, they build up a tolerance to your pass rush moves. So the more that I continue to do the same move over and over again against David DeCastro to the same direction, he's going to build up a tolerance, and it's going to become less effective for my pass rusher. So, you want to mix up what you're doing with your pass rushers. As you guys can see, a very nice bull rush move there by Cam Hayward, and doing a good job of getting pressure into the backfield. Unfortunately, Ben Roethlisberger able to get rid of the ball there. But that is how you're going to generate pressure with the bull rush move if you manage to get a win like this. But like I said, the offensive lineman will develop a tolerance to it. So there are a couple things that you guys can do to avoid the offensive lineman building up a tolerance and preventing you from doing your moves. And we'll do more of a breakdown of specific tips on what to do in my next video. But just on a basic level, you can move your defensive linemen around so they're not always matched up against the same people, and you can perform different moves to prevent the offensive lineman from building the same type of tolerance or the same level of tolerance against your pass rush moves. So that's the bull rush move. Let's go ahead and move on to the speed rush move. Now, this is essentially just going to be, you're going to head towards the outside with your edge rusher, your speed rusher, and then you're going to click in R2 once you get close to the defensive lineman. This is not the R2 that you would normally press whenever you're just trying to get a jump off of the line of scrimmage, and we'll see if they ever even snap the ball here. But as you guys can see, I got the speed rush move around the edge and it wasn't effective. The speed rush move, as you start to use it, you'll start to notice that it's a bit different of a feel than the normal turbo using R2 or the normal jump off the ball with a defensive lineman using R2. It feels different. It kind of gives you an actual animation or an actual move that you're doing to try to speed rush around the outside. As you guys can see here, Bud Dupree was not extremely effective with it, but it can be used to great effect to get around the outside of an offensive lineman and create pressure on the quarterback. And a lot of times if you have an inagile offensive lineman or a slower offensive lineman, it can be used to go right around the edge and get directly to the quarterback. And all that's not even a move on the right skill stick. All that is you press the R2 button when you get close to the offensive lineman. If you time it appropriately, you'll be able to get around the outside and get to the quarterback. Now, another move here that I want to discuss is the club and swim move. So you go to the outside, and that I did a poor job of it there, but essentially what you do is you angle your defensive pass rusher to the outside, and then you flick the stick inside. And what that's going to do is that's going to do a club move. It's a club and swim. So it's not going to be perfect every single time. It's going to take timing to get it down, but this is another move that you can do to vary up what you're doing and prevent the offensive lineman from building up a tolerance to exactly what you're doing every single time. So you see I angle my lineman to the outside, and then I try to do a club move or a swim move to the inside. It's unfortunately ineffective there for Bud Dupree, but one of the things that you have to take into account is that you're not always going to be effective with the moves that you make, and on top of that, the offensive lineman might have good pass blocking stats. Your defensive player might not have as good defensive stats, so those things factor into whether the move is successful or not. The next move that I wanted to talk about was the rip move. So if we go ahead and take TJ Watt here, we can just try to do a simple rip move by jumping off the ball whenever it's snapped, and we're going to be able to flick our stick to the right side and hopefully perform a rip move around Matt Filer, the right tackle, if they decide to snap the ball at some point. So there we go. Well, he tried to perform a spin move there. You can do, a swim move. You can do a swim move. You can do a rip move. It's a variety of different moves that you can do to the outside or to the inside. As you guys can see, he's trying to do a swim move. I believe the rip move, if you do the swim move, you're flicking it to the outside. If you do the rip move, you want to flick the stick up. So as you guys can see, I'm flicking the stick up, and he tries to perform a rip move. Unfortunately, it's unsuccessful because the offensive lineman is building up a good tolerance, but those are the variety of different moves that you can make. Now, the other one is if you want to do a spin move, you can just flick the stick in a circle. As you guys can see, what I do here with Cameron Hayward on this play is you can do a swim or a spin move to try to get the offensive lineman out of the position. So this is really effective if you have a lineman that is leaning heavy to one side. So right here, for example, I notice that there's this big gap in the middle, and if I can effectively get a swim move off, I can swim back to the other side and get into Ben Roethlisberger. Now here, I obviously did not successfully perform the move, but when you're successfully able to perform that move, he spins right into the quarterback, gets himself into the face of the quarterback, and applies that pressure. So those are the basics of the moves. You can do a swim, you can do a rip, you can do a club, you can do an outside speed rush by using the R2 button and getting that speed rush around the edge. You can do a bull rush, and personally speaking, I've found that the most basic moves tend to be the most effective. So if we go in here and we use the bull rush with a Cameron Hayward, for example, Cameron Hayward's bull rush is one of my most effective pass rush moves. I get the most sacks on the Steelers using Cam Hayward by simply going with one-on-one matchups against worst offensive linemen and then jumping at the line of scrimmage and then flicking the stick down to do a bull rush and getting pressure in the backfield. He has a ton of sacks for me on the season in my franchise, and he's been one of my most effective players. Likewise, with the speed rush around the outside, I found that this is one of the most effective ways to get pressure if you have a Bud Dupree type player that has a lot of speed and can get around that edge quickly. It's going to take some mastery to really get it done and be able to consistently apply pressure, but one of the things that I can recommend for you guys is, like I said, moving around across the line of scrimmage, playing with different players, and I'm going to come up with another video right after this, which is going to describe exactly what you want to do to try to generate more pressure, some tips and tricks to utilize these moves to your advantage the most. So hopefully knowing these moves and what they are is going to help you guys out. One thing that I do want to mention at the end here is that you do have a bar above your defender's head that is going to indicate how many pass rush moves you have. So if we look at Cam Hayward here, he only has one pass rush move. He's only allowed to perform one on this play. But if we look at a player like Bud Dupree, his bar is filled all the way up. So he could perform his maximum number of pass rush moves before he actually is not allowed to perform any more. But let's say we selected Cam Hayward on that play, he would only be allowed to do one pass rush move, and then after that he won't be able to do any more because of the fact that his bar only shows one. Same thing with Tuitt here, he can only perform one pass rush move. So hopefully this helps you guys out in some way. I'm going to come out with a second video here today to describe exactly what I'm talking about in terms of tips and tricks to get more pressure and how to utilize these to your greatest effect. So if it does help you guys out in some way, make sure you guys leave a like on the video. Make sure that you guys comment down below with anything else you guys could use help on, any other videos you'd like to see, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you guys have a good night.